Have you heard the name of Trincomalee? It's a small port in the western part of Sri Lanka, and it is near to the Jaffna state of Sri Lanka. This Trincomalee is going to have a very important significance from the point of view of India's energy security. In fact, I will use the term India's game plan in Sri Lanka have a very significant aspect with respect to the Trincomalee. So, why this? How this? Let's understand. During the Second World War, when British armed forces they are running their operations, air operations, they need frequently fuel their aircraft. And for that purpose, they have created 100 tanks in the Trincomalee airfield, so that those Allied forces fighter jets which are doing the operations during the Second World War, they can fuel them from this small place of Sri Lanka. So the rapid 100 tanks were built, and these 100 tanks can store huge amount of fuel. After the Second World War, these tanks become useless because Sri Lanka do not need that amount of oil. But gradually, India also started seeing that as a strategic asset. So Indian Oil Corporation have established a local subsidy in the Sri Lanka, and they taken these tanks from the government on the lease. With that, IOCL's Sri Lankan subsidiary started operating 15 to 20 storage tanks for their own purpose. Over the years, with the rise of China started increasing their footprint in the Indian Ocean, the so-called string of pearls theory. And with that, Sri Lanka have granted a 99-year lease of Hambantota port to China, which has raised the eyebrows in India. But do you know that Sri Lanka have offered this Hambantota port first to India, but India was not very keen to have this port. Then Chinese have taken over. But Chinese taken over not just an economical in the nature. China want to increase their footprints. And sometimes Chinese survey ship also dock at Hambantota port, which is operated by China. But if a survey ship is being docking at the port, what is the problem? They are the survey ship for the surveying purpose of the ocean bed. Find out the minerals. But remember that for submarine operations, you should have a proper map of the ocean surface. And these surveys vessels, they are camouflaging in the name of scientific experiment, but their basic task is to create a proper map of ocean surface so that it can smoothly allow Chinese submarine to operate this area. But now India can't do this thing. India cannot stop the China to operate the survey vessel. But if you are not able to counter directly, but you can create a parallels. So this is why India started showing its interest in the Trincomalee. Last year, when Indian Prime Minister visited to Sri Lanka, he announced that India, Sri Lanka, and now the third player in the game, that is UAE, is going to have a joint project, a big energy hub in the Trincomalee area of Sri Lanka. Why UAE? Let's understand. Before Prime Minister's visit to Sri Lanka, Sri Lankan President visited India. Then he also visited to China. And during his visit to China, China have announced a $3.7 billion staggering investment in the Hambantota to create a refinery in Sri Lanka, which is going to be the biggest refinery in the Sri Lanka. Means China is not just going to have a port at Hambantota, but it is going to create a bigger energy hub in the region. And we know that in the economy, there is always a game of demand and supply. Price are going to be dependent on that. Why I'm using this? Take an example. Are you aware of Gwadar port? If yes, then you may be aware of Chabahar port. So when China have decided to develop a Gwadar port in Pakistan, India have countered with this by creating a port at Iran. And the establishment of Chabahar port have decreased the economic value of the Gwadar port. Though China have invested a huge amount of money in the Gwadar port, but Gwadar port is not able to gather the momentum what Chinese have thought. Same strategy is going to be used by India in the case of Sri Lanka. Hambantota port is going to be developed by the China, and the energy hub is going to be developed by the China at Hambantota. But now India, with the help of UAE, is going to create an energy hub at where? Trincomalee. Why UAE? UAE is one of the largest producer of oil in the Gulf region. But if UAE have to supply their oil to ASEAN countries, then that oil tankers should move from the ASEAN countries to Gulf region. But if the war is going on, it is going to be a little bit difficult. But imagine if UAE have their strategically stored oil in the Trincomalee, it is going to allow UAE to export smoothly from there to any part of the world. And if India is involved, then India can also get that oil from that strategic reserves. So in this way, it is going to be the win-win situation for three countries. Number one, Sri Lanka. Why? Because a big infrastructure is going to be created there with the help of India and UAE. It is going to create a local job, and it is also going to provide energy security to Sri Lanka also. Second, for India. India can use that facility as a strategic reserve, and for UAE, they can diversify their operations of oil export to another region where there is no threat of the drone attacks from any country, including Iran. So in this way, UAE can safely use that facility. India can be ensured it is going to have an energy security of crude oil, and Sri Lanka energy security plus local jobs. Overall, it can counter effectively Chinese investment in the Hambantota in terms of energy hub. Though we must have to understand and accept the Chinese investment, which is $3.7 billion, they are going to be the biggest investment which cannot be matched by India's investment in the Trincomalee. But investments are not always about who is having the bigger investments. Investments are also about who is having the smart investment, and like Chabahar, India again doing the smart investment in the Sri Lanka. And this is all about India's project Trincomalee. Thank you.